Welcome in, everyone. We're back for another episode of Stand for Kind Talks with your hosts, Candy Olant, that's me, and Kristen Chapman.
Hello.
Our guest today is Jentry Youd. He is with, let's see here. What is the name of your middle school? Here it is, Diamond Fork
Middle School.
And Jentry comes to us from Utah, great state of Utah. Jentry is also an author, and we're going to talk some more about his books that he's written to spread kindness and his personal mission to spread kindness. And it's Valentine's Day, so today we thought we would start with a kindness quote to just kind of kick it all off. So here we go, friends. Be kind, for everyone you meet is fighting a battle you know nothing about. And that's from Wendy Mass. So in light of, you never know what someone's walking around with, right, Jentry? And so to show them some kindness, you just never know how far it's going to go.
Yep, for sure. So I agree 100% with that. And that's one thing that I've learned as an educator. And I learned it in my first year as a teacher, and it's always stuck with me. And you see these kids come to school every single day, and you just don't know what home life is like and where they came from. So, and I have some stories I want to share about that, but first I just want to thank you guys. Thank you for standing up for kindness and being the people that you are, and holding this podcast, because I think it'll mean a lot to a lot of people and change a lot of lives. So thank you.
Well, thank you for joining us. We're really excited to have you on the podcast today. Can you tell our listeners just a little bit about yourself, how you got where you are?
Yeah, I'd love to. So I'm in Utah. I was born and raised in Utah. I'm married to a beautiful girl, and I still feel blessed and lucky every day that she chose me. And we have 4 kids.
Always the right answer. Always the right answer.
I love when people ask me, how long have you been married? And I said, not long enough, because that's true. That's true for me. But we have 4 great kids, 2 boys and 2 girls. Our oldest is 9, and our youngest is 1. And just couldn't be more happy with them. And we just love doing activities with them, whether it's sports or dance or fishing or hunting and riding horses. Just whatever we get to do be with our kids is what we love the most.
That's awesome. I also have a 1-year-old, so it's a fun time.
They know how to tear a house apart in a hurry.
Oh, yes, they do. I'm learning that.
I have a 17-year-old, Jentry, so I'm kind of like on the other end of you guys, where they still can be a destructive force in the house. They leave a trail of socks and clothes. It's like, buddy, did you leave breadcrumb trail so you could find your way back to your bedroom? Like, what is going on here? But it's fun. Kristen and I were talking about parenting today, and it's incredibly, this is not a popular thing to say. It's hard. It's hard, especially if you are really you're trying to be invested in your kids' education and their health and their activities and different things like that. And you're trying to balance being a spouse or partner. It's just tough. It's hard, but it's the greatest gift I've ever been given. And I just absolutely wouldn't trade it for the world. It's amazing.
Yep. It's awesome. And I think the biggest challenges of being a parent is teaching your kids to be kind and respectful to everybody and understand and get them to understand, to go back to your quote, to be kind to everybody, because you don't know what they're going through. And I think that's one of the things that I'm grateful for, is I see so much at school every single day, and I don't hide that from my kids, that I can go home and my kids can say, Dad, what happened at school today? And I can say, well, let me tell you, about a fight or a bullying situation, or what somebody said to one another, or a vape that I found, because I think it's important not to hide those things from your kids, because that's one way that they learn to not judge others, but to be kind and love other people.
We've had a lot of people on our podcast saying like that exact same thing, that like parenting philosophy of just being honest with your kids and real with them. And I love that parenting is like taking that turn. That makes me so happy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't think you can keep anything away from your kids anymore. They learn it at such a young age. You have to just be honest and open.
It's true. I would much rather my son get the information from the trusted adults in his life and than misinformation somewhere else. So we've always tried to have a pretty open line of communication with our son, except we did keep from him that deviled eggs have mayonnaise in them. And Kristen has always given me a really hard time about that. We did finally come clean because he hates mayonnaise, but he loves deviled eggs. And so I just had to shatter that. And yeah, I mean, it's the little things.
But will he
But
still eat them afterward?
yes, he will.
Yeah.
He will. He won't give them up. He just kind of pretends like it's just not a thing, but it's, the truth is out.
I'm the same way with Caesar dressing. Do you know Caesar salad dressing has anchovies in it?
Yeah.
I'm the same way. I just pretend like it doesn't exist. It's just not a thing.
That's awesome. Well, let's talk about, Jentry, your kindness initiative. You're passionate about kindness. It's your thing. When Pam, the director of Stand for Kind, told us about you, Jentry, it was one of the first things that she said was he is one of the kindest people that you will ever meet, and it's very genuine. And he goes out of his way, he goes out of his way to spread kindness. So, can you tell us, how did this come about? How did you make this a personal mission, or why?
I think when I go back I was always raised to be kind, right? I mean, my mom is probably one of the kindest people that I've ever been around. She doesn't know how to say no to anybody. And so I think just at a young age, I was kind of taught that by my parents to be kind. But when I look back at my educational career, there's one story and one thing that really sticks out when I was a first year teacher. And as a first year teacher, I had this boy in my class, and his name was James. And he was tough. He was hard. He would rip up his assignments. He wouldn't finish some. He kind of had an attitude, kind of a chip on his shoulder. But I remember I'd always just try to love him and be kind to him and try to teach all the other kids to accept him. But there was one day, it was during Teacher Appreciation Week, and I was in that elementary school, so Teacher Appreciation Week was big. Doors are decorated for these teachers, and I remember there was one door that was decorated with candy bars. And I had these students come to me and said, "Hey, Mr. Youd, just to let you know, James keeps stealing candy bars off of this teacher's door." And I thought, good, I'm going to catch him. I'm going to catch him in the act, and I'm going to teach this kid a lesson. And I remember sitting there, and it took me 2 lunch times. But on a Thursday during lunch, I remember hiding around the corner, and I see James come in from lunch recess. And I thought, yes, I got him. And I remember watching James walk over to this door, and he looked right and he looked left, make sure nobody was there. And he reached up and he pulled a candy bar off that door. And as soon as he did that, I came around the corner and I said, "James, what are you doing?" And the bell rang. So here come all these kids filing back in. So I take them all to my classroom. I go to my classroom. I get everybody silent reading. And I have this door that goes outside of the building, out to kind of the grass area, the playground. And I said, "James, come outside and sit with me real quick." And James sits outside, and he sits against the wall. And he kind of puts his hands over his eyes and on his knees. So he's kind of hunched down. And as I got the class silent reading, I went out, kind of talked a little bit more to James about it. But I did it in a way of kind of scolding him. "James, you know better than this. James, you disappointed me. That's not what we do. You know how to act. You know this wasn't the right thing to do." And I asked him, I said, "What are you going through? What do you feel right now?" And he never answered me. So I walked back into my class and made sure everything was good. And about 2 minutes later, I walked back out to James. And this time I knelt down in front of James and I just said, "James, I'm sorry I said that stuff. But can you tell me, I just want to know, how are you feeling right now?" And he didn't really answer me. And I said, "James, I just want to know, how are you feeling and how can I help?" And at that point, James looked up at me with tears in his eyes. And he said one word to me. And it really changed my life as a person and educator. But James looked up and he said, "Hungry."
Oh.
And it broke my heart. And I said, "James, what did you eat for lunch?" And he says, "Nothing." I said, "James, what did you eat for breakfast at home?" He says, "Nothing." And at that moment, I realized that there was more going on with James than stealing a candy bar trying to learn at school. I walked in, I grabbed a couple granola bars from my desk and a bottle of water, and I came back out and tried to give him something to eat. And I let the principal and lunch ladies know that, hey, this kid needs to eat.
Mm-hmm.
And after that moment taught me that kids are going through a lot more than what we realize, and we don't understand their home life. To go back to your statement at first, of be kind to everybody because we don't know what they're going through. It's true. And James truly did change my life and change the way I thought about students and thought about my job as a teacher. But the really neat thing about this story is that would have been in 2011. I actually tried to find James in 2019, and we started to talk on Facebook a little bit on Messenger. And it's kind of been off and on, not very much, just maybe one or two messages, 2019, 20, 21, 22. Last week at 10:30 at night, I was able to FaceTime him for the first time.
Oh,
And
really?
and to sit FaceTime with James and talk to him about that story and talk to him about what he remembers in 6th grade and just be able to tell him how much I love him and how he changed my life as a person and educator. It meant a lot to me, and it was a great conversation between both of us. And I told him, I said, I can't wait for you to meet my 9-year-old boy, and I'm taking you to dinner soon because you mean a lot to me, and I need to repay the kindness and love and the lesson that he showed me.
Mm. Wow. That's a defining moment in a career.
Yeah, and I'm glad it happened in my first part. But I think there's those stories that teachers could get multiple times a year. If we set curriculum aside for a minute and really go in there with love and kindness and knowing, hey, how can I help?
Yeah, that's true. I'm sure that you being able to show your human side to that child at that time too had to have made some sort of impression upon him. And I think Kristen and I, we taught together, we shared that with you, and we had defining moments every year. I
Yeah,
think I can definitely speak for myself where you have some kind of connection with a child like that, you learn something about them. Had sort of a similar situation where I had a child um, he was overhearing his parents fighting a lot. And, he was coming in, he was having a really hard time focusing, and he was really distracted. And he already had a couple learning disabilities, so he's kind of fighting an uphill battle that we were alongside him with. But it really got to a point where he just almost couldn't function in the classroom, and he was miserable. And so I pulled him out one day and I was like, hey, buddy, let's just talk. Let's just tell me what's going on, whatever you're comfortable sharing. I'm here for you. I want you to know I care about you. I see you. Because I think so many times these kids just want to be seen,
yeah,
they want to know that somebody sees them and they matter. And he just crumbled, kind of like James, it all came out. He's like, I'm hearing them through the vent. I don't know what's happening. I'm really scared, and all this kind of stuff. And I was like, buddy, sometimes adults argue. It's what they do. And I'm not saying it's okay. And I understand how it makes you feel. I really do. But let's see what we can do. And so we had a conference with his parents. Both his parents came in, and luckily they were in a space where they wanted and were able to hear it and put him first. And so they made some changes in their household. They, got into therapy. They did some different things. And that kid did a 180 over like a month. Because he had his parents' support at that point, and he felt heard. I can't say that it ended as a fairy tale. It didn't. But they all three came out on the other side stronger and better. But if you glaze over those opportunities, especially as like an educator, you could miss a real opportunity to affect the fellow that I had, or James, or Kristen's had a dozen of them too, showing them that kindness goes a long way.
Oh, yeah. And I think a word that we don't use very often is validate, right? And it's just validating
Mm.
a child's needs or a parent's needs or a teacher's need. As an educational leader, it's validating who they are, what their strengths are, and what their talents are. And when you say that kids want to be seen, they want to be validated. And hey, you're a good little artist. You have a talent for that. Hey, you might struggle here in math, and that's okay because you have another talent. And it's finding the passion and the strength of a person and validating that in there, and then that you can deal with that concern, and be the help that somebody needs.
Yeah, isn't that what adults want too? Like, isn't that what everyone wants, is just to be validated and feel confident in yourself, whatever that ability is. Like,
Yeah.
maybe you're not the best at math, but maybe you are a great artist. And I think meeting kids where they are is just so important.
Yep. I agree with that. And, talking about kindness and how kindness spreads and things like that and validation. One thing I do try to do, which has helped me validate people, is I've made it a commitment, but I've made it into myself. I can't even remember what word I'm looking for right now. It's a habit. A habit is what it is.
Oh, okay.
I've made a habit of every morning at 7:00 in the morning, I text two to 5 to 6 people every single morning and let them know, hey, I love you. I appreciate you. I'm thankful for you. I'm thankful for you being my friend. And I want you to know that I care about you, and I hope you have a good day today. But it's something different, and I try to validate who people are and what they've done for me, and to thank them, and it could be an old coach from when I was a kid, just wanted to reach out after 20 years. Hey, thanks for being a good coach when I was in Little League Wrestling, and I appreciate the example you taught me. Or it's the teachers in the school building every day that I try to text, or a parent, about their own kid. But every day I try to send these messages out at 7:00 in the morning, and it's amazing how much it's changed my life in the last 5 years. And it's amazing how those texts, you don't know how far a text of love and kindness is going to go. And I'll tell you a quick story about that. So one night I was at a viewing actually with my wife, and a man named Steve came up to me and he gave me a hug and he says, hey, I just want you to know that your text the other day meant a lot to me. And it was at a time that I really needed to hear that about myself. And just thank you for sending a nice text. And I just gave him a hug and said, well, I hope you know I love you. Well, as he walked off, I kind of said, like, I don't even remember texting.
Truth be told.
I text a lot of people, but, I don't remember, but I'm glad that I sent you a text. Well, the next day, this was in January. The next day he texts me and says, hey, Jentry, just to let you know, that was last February when you sent me a text. 11 months had gone by, and that guy remembered my text from 11 months.
Wow.
Because all I did was tell him how much I love him, appreciate him, and thank him for being my friend. So it's just something little, that we can do every single day. And if everybody did it, everybody would start their day out with one, being kind, showing love, and receiving love.
Yeah, there's studies out there that show that spreading kindness feels just as good as receiving kindness. And I think that's so cool.
Yeah, the more you serve, right? The more you serve, the more love and empathy you actually do bring in your life.
Yeah.
Yeah,
what do you
that's
do,
true.
just because Candy and I are former educators, so when you say that you're sending these messages to your teachers in your school, I know how much that must mean to them. What do you do to keep that campus culture kind and good and happy? Because it's tough right now in education. It is a tough time to be a teacher. It's a tough time to be an administrator. So what do you do to keep that positivity up?
I'm a bottle full of energy, I feel like. So from the moment I get here at 7 in the morning to when I leave at 4, like I come to have fun every single day and to let people know I love and care about them. But I think there's a whole bunch of different ways to build culture. One, we use school announcements because school announcements can be uplifting, positive, and a good time. But just the text out to teachers every day and validating them for what they do. I think it's important for teachers, and this is what I'm really trying to get out of teachers right now. I have my moments with students. I have my, my top 10 favorite students and the memories I have with them and the stories that I feel like I've made a difference. Teachers need to seek that out and they need to share it. So when they have stories, who are they sharing it with? When I walk into a faculty room at lunch, I want to ask a teacher, hey, tell me about one of your favorite students and why are they your favorite? I think it's really hard to get in there and get the negativity like, oh my gosh, this kid in my class today, he's driving me nuts. But we have to search out the good. But teachers have to have an opportunity to share the good and share why they love students and their story behind it. And I think it's the same way too as students. Like, you guys know as a teacher, when you get a note from a student, I mean, I don't know how many I have in here this morning because it's Valentine's Day, but those kind notes. But if we give students an opportunity to write those to teachers, then we're teaching them how to be kind and reach out to teachers too. Other things that we do here at school that I've started, we do a ton of teacher challenges. So I try to do one a month, whether it's a cornhole tournament, a bowling tournament. PE had archery set up, so we did an archery tournament, and I make little trophies that we can give out to teachers when they win. I just did a Super Bowl board and put every adult staff member on there and said, here's your numbers for the Super Bowl. Yeah, you're not paying anything, but if you win, we're going to buy you lunch this week.
Oh.
I did a college football pick'em. So every week I picked 5 college football games, and the winner at the end of the season, we gave a trophy to and bought lunch to. March Madness is coming up. So we'll do a college March Madness. But I try to do all of these games and challenges to bring teachers together, but to remember work is fun. It's stressful, but man, we have so many fun moments. And as a teacher, I want my teachers to know there's something we can learn every single week here at school. And it's more than just a lesson of math, English, science. It goes deeper than that. We can learn a lot from kids. And so we just have fun and we try to be positive. I try to make those positive phone calls home to parents as much as I can to let them know I love and appreciate their kids. Because sometimes we just focus on the ones that are the consequence ones. But when we can do the positive ones, it'll be good. And one thing I do want to start to do is I would love to make a positive phone call to the spouse of a teacher. That's some of my next goals, to call home and give the spouse, hey, I just want you to know how much we love and appreciate your wife or your husband and how much they do here. It's the same thing, as calling a parent and telling them that about their kid. But there's just so many little things that you can do that bring happiness at work. And that's what we strive for. When teachers are happy, they do a good job.
I would believe that. Teachers want to be seen and recognized because a lot of times they go in, close their door, and other than an observation, there's not an adult seeing those aha moments or seeing those moments where they cast a safety net and they catch a kid who's falling behind, or those things a lot of times just go unseen by other adults. And,
and when do they have a chance to share that? They need that chance to share it in a faculty meeting or in the lunchroom or somewhere. They have to share those experiences because that's where other people start to join in and see the positive.
Sure. Instead of it becoming a space for downloading negativity, it is a place for them to remember and celebrate the good things that are happening in the classroom and the reason they got into it. And I would imagine that those kind of efforts that you're putting forth are affecting your retention rate with your teachers. I would hope that it would affect.
Yeah, I think so. This is my first year here at the middle school. I've been at a junior high the last 3 years, which was a great experience too. Worked with a great admin team over there. But the school I'm at right now, it's so positive, happy. That the teachers just seem so good, and I kind of adopted that culture, that happiness culture when I got here. But for me, my job is, okay, how can I keep it up and what can I do next? Like giving the teachers a voice and giving them opportunity to spread good.
I want to give you a shout out too for what you're doing with the parents. We had an administrator, Kristen and I were, first of all, we were at a phenomenal school, phenomenal school. Um, and one of our administrators said, we need to start making an effort to make calls home that are positive and be proactive in our relationship building with our parents so that if, something does happen where we have a coaching opportunity or a challenge, it's not the first time they've heard from us. And that they know that we're in their kids' corner and it's not us against them. It's a collaborative situation. So I commend you for doing that because that went a really long way
Yeah.
to reach out to parents and let them know, hey, Sam picked up somebody's tray that fell on the floor the other day or shared his pencil. Or it could be small things, but those small things add up in the culture of your classroom.
Yep, for sure. As a teacher, I always tried to make 2 positive phone calls a day. And when I taught an elementary class, I was like, okay, 2 phone calls a day. I could hit every kid once or twice a month. Mm-hmm. And parents love those phone calls. They absolutely love them. When I taught secondary, it was a little harder, but I thought if I could get 2 a day, at least I could get through, 1 kid every term or semester, Mm-hmm. But as an admin now, I actually try to do the positive kids, like the kids that are doing good. But I find the kids that I'm working with and consequencing often and trying to coach to make better choices every day. If I can call their parents and give them some good news, it goes a long way, right? It's money in the bank. But for that kid, when they go home and mom says, or dad says, hey, I got a phone call from Mr. Youd today. The kid's like, oh, what did I do now? and the mom and dad's like, no, let me tell you what he did. It was a positive phone call. Oh. That just put me in a better relationship with that kid the next day he comes to school. There's a little more trust there of, hey, he is there to help me. He has my back.
It fills your bucket too. Because teacher burnout, and we'll get to that in a few minutes, it's just such a thing. But these kinds of things, if you can muster the energy to make 2 calls a night, whatever that looks like, leave a voicemail message, something, it fills your bucket, especially when you do connect with the parent and they're like shocked off their core. They're just like, he did what? You're calling me why? What was that? Wait a minute. Nothing's wrong. And it's just like, it feels so good to be able to do that. And I know the next thing we kind of wanted to talk about was like empathy. So kindness and empathy to me, in my heart, kind of go together. And so I know you've written a couple of books about kindness. I'm sure empathy is a big part of that. Talk to us about how you foster and teach and model empathy.
Empathy, I feel like takes a long time sometimes to build with teachers and kids and people, because it does go into a lot of trust before people really fully understand, hey, I do love and care about you and I'm here, Mm-hmm. So real quick, I'm going to tell you a story that happened just a few years ago to me, if that's all right.
We love
this
stories.
This boy's name was Carter, and Carter came to me when the junior high was the 7th, 8th, and 9th grade. And Carter's one of my top 5 favorite students, I'd say, because he taught me a good lesson too. But Carter was tough when he came in. He was that kid once again that would slough classes and not make very good choices and say choice words to teachers and students, and I worked with him a lot. And we did half of 7th grade and all of 8th grade with me always saying, hey, Carter, love you, buddy. Hope you have a good day today. And Carter would get in trouble of something, and I'd have to suspend him for a fight or something else, and I'd always just tell him, hey, Carter, I love you and I believe in you and I'm here to help you. Or, hey, Carter, I understand what you're going through right now. I actually do know how you feel, or I've been around other students that know how you feel, but I want you to know I love you. Well, his end of his 8th grade year, what happened to Carter is I knew there was going to be a fight, and it was reported to me that Carter and this other kid, they were going to go at it sometime at school that day. And so I'd give him warnings, and I'd kind of watched him a little bit. Well, lunchtime rolled around, and I'm doing my lunch supervision in the cafeteria, and I'm kind of standing on the stage area, and I'm watching 500 kids come into the school cafeteria. And I look over and I see Carter coming through the double doors into the cafeteria. And I thought, oh no, here it goes. And anyway, those two boys kind of came over to go at it, and I tried to stop it. And I jumped in and told Carter he's got to calm down. And they were arguing. And anyway, Carter ended up pushing me, and I tripped and I fell backward.
Oh
And
no.
he let me have it. Every cuss word and swear word that you can imagine. And I've never heard a cafeteria of 500 kids so quiet, because they were all watching of what was going to happen. And I ended up getting up and grabbing Carter, and we walked out in the hall, and he was going off on me still. Just call my mom, send me home. I hate this place. I hate you. Get me out of here. Well, I walked Carter back to my office, and I sat him down, and I went and grabbed him a Mountain Dew and a Twix candy bar. And I came back in and I said, hey, Carter, I'll be back in a few minutes. Because I still had to go finish lunch supervision. So I couldn't really talk to him. So I went and finished lunch supervision. I came back in about 20 minutes later, 25 minutes later. And Carter was upset. He was emotional, and he had his head down, and he was in tears. And I remember standing at the doorway, and I said, hey, Carter, how you doing, buddy? And he didn't answer. And I said, Carter, how you feeling? Tell me what's going on in your head. And he said, I hate you.
Mm.
And I said, Carter, why do you hate me? And he says, because you love me.
No.
And I went and grabbed me a Mountain Dew and a candy bar, and I came and I sat, not across the desk, but right next to him. And Carter opened up to me for an hour and a half. Just told me everything, right? Just like your little boy, Candy, just finally hit rock bottom and needed some help. And at that point, I was able to work with Carter, and it was a long road, and he had to switch friend groups, and he had to switch life decisions, what he was doing. He still made lots of bad choices, wrong choices, I should call them. I still had to suspend him, and I got to work with him, be his buddy for a year, and I still talk to him. I went to his baseball game at the end of last fall, and still talk to his mom quite often, and him, and it's just one of those things where empathy came through, but it didn't come through for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
It took me over a year to break that kid, but he knew that I loved him, but still that empathy took a year.
Mm-hmm. Consistency.
Yeah, consistency.
They have to see a pattern of consistency before they will trust and believe that you're a trusted adult.
Yeah, and I think
100%.
as educators and adults, we want to break that real quick with kids and with teachers, but it's a process.
Mm-hmm.
And you still have to go through that process to get there. And it's a lot of positive process. Even when you think it's negative, you still have to find the positive in the process.
Yeah. Jentry, you are killing it at the making meaningful relationships game. It seems like between you and your staff and you and your students. And I mean, there's so many relationships that go on in a school, because you've got the students, you've got the admin, you've got the teachers, you've got the parents, and there's just so many connections or chances for misconnections, and so much that goes on there. How do you keep all of those relationships so positive? Because that's so much going on.
Well, thank you for the compliment, because I really do. I want to be the relationship principal, right? Like one day when I do have the title of principal, I do want the relationship bound, because I think that's where the most success comes in, and kids and teachers try their hardest when they do have that relationship. But I think you just have to care about people, give people an opportunity to speak, and be a good listener to them, and remember things, like when teachers tell you stuff about their weekend or their family, it's hard to remember, but it's okay to write you a little sticky note on your desk. I've got, 15 of them right here on my desk to follow up with so-and-so about their vacation, like something like that, or
nice.
hey, like there's a wedding coming up, so ask about their wedding, like their kid's wedding, like things that I'm not going to remember, but you still need to reach out to them, and so it's okay to write you a little note and try to remember those things to come back and ask. And kids just want to tell you, they just want to talk, so I think it's important that when you give kids an opportunity to listen, they'll come to your office and they'll find you in the hallway and at lunch, and walking into a classroom and they want to tell you because they know that you're going to listen.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's amazing. I would love to be a teacher at your school or a student at your school.
Well, come to Utah. We'll take you.
For sure. Kristen and I have had some phenomenal admin, and we've had some who are, finding their way in their career. And the phenomenal ones were the ones who we felt like we were walking alongside, not working for. And they weren't doing our jobs for us, but they were there to support us when we needed them.
Yeah.
And they lifted us up. They listened. Yes, 100%. And I think that a school culture, the admin is a big part of it. So what you're doing goes a really long way.
And I've worked with so many great principals, and the two I work under right now, so there's a principal, assistant principal, and me as a dean of students. They're just great examples. Like my district is full of them, and I've just been super blessed and lucky that I've been around so many of them that have taught me so many great things.
That's great. Okay, so middle school. Woo, boy, there's a lot going on there. Just
the greatest place in the world.
Yeah. Maturation is, it's real. And, they're at a point where they're tweens pretty much. They're kind of in between, the littles and the high school, and they're kind of figuring all these things out. And when you talked about your little friend there that had some self-regulation issues, that's a big piece. I feel like school is a place where we can safely learn to self-regulate, and it's modeled by teachers, and then we see other kids practicing self-regulation. What do you guys do in your school to really teach those techniques, to model those techniques? Do you reach out to parents? How do you handle the whole self-regulation situation? Because Pam was just telling us that she talked to some college kids that had never heard of coping skills. They had no idea what coping skills were: self-regulation, deep breathing, visualization. They had never heard of it. Are these things you guys are talking about?
Yeah, so we talk about them often. So we have at our school, what we've started is a team time is what we call it. And it's an advisory class every Monday, or a homeroom class, whatever, other schools want to call it. But we actually go through our social emotional learning lesson or character education lesson on Monday mornings with our students. So this gives us a time to, we've had empathy lessons, we've had respecting others, we've had organizational skills as a lesson, we've had stress, coping with stress, and controlling your emotions. What emotion are you feeling, and how do you control that? What makes you happy? What makes you sad? And so it's been good for us as a school to be able to, hey, what are the needs of the students right now, and how can we teach them these needs, the skills that they need to become better. And so we put together, a 10-minute lesson, 15-minute lesson on Mondays. It goes out school-wide, so every student gets to hear it, and then teachers can revisit that throughout the week with their classes as needed. And then I push it out in the school newsletter as well, so I let parents know, this is what we talked about in team time this week. This is the lesson. Please review with your kids whatever the topic is and how you use that at home. So we're trying to tie that in with parents and at home. Love though, like the controlling your emotions. So the book that I'm just coming out with, I just got it printed last week.
Congratulations.
Thank you. So this is book number 2, and it's titled The Swing of the Game. So my books are all about character ed and kindness. My first one is about being kind and being a good teammate and finding the talent of somebody else that you didn't know was there. My second one is a baseball book, and it's called The Swing of the Game, and it's about a little boy who's learning how to control his emotions. He's the star of the baseball team in the championship game, and everything is going wrong. So he's striking out, can't hit the ball, he can't make a good throw to first, he gets hit in the head with a fly ball. Everything is going wrong. And it's the part of him trying to control his emotions to finish the game, to finish what he started. And it's embarrassing for him. And to get through that embarrassment of not playing well. And so I'm excited about this one too, and just helping kids out, because that's what I want my picture books to do is to help kids understand that it's okay, it's okay not to fit in, and it's okay to have an embarrassing moment. It's okay to struggle, but how do we get over that struggle?
Yeah. I think that's so important. I manage our app. We have like a Stand for Kindness app. And I just posted yesterday, I saw a quote from Jalen Hurts after the Super Bowl.
I love this one.
Yeah, about how he's handling his loss. And so I screenshotted it. I saw it on social media. I screenshotted it and I posted it in our app yesterday. And just wrote a little bit about how your character is shown so much, not only through your big wins, but also your big losses. And I think that message that you're giving in your book is just so important.
Yeah, 100%. Failure is feedback, right? And so if you look at your failures, you think, okay, what do I need to do to get better? And you look at that game, what an amazing game that was, but how Jalen Hurts handled himself afterwards and was just like, we'll go back to work. I love that. I love that character and people and that strive to, it's all right, we'll get over it, but we'll get back, we'll get better.
Yeah, we saw that a lot with our fourth grade, especially our boys. Something about that age, and I'm sure you see it too, middle school boys. Just something about that age where the losses are really hard for them, and how they handle them. I mean, it can be as simple as a kickball game at recess, like something so simple. And those losses really show some things that like we didn't necessarily see in the classroom.
Yeah, and as a teacher, I loved competition. I had competition all the time because kids really did need to understand, one, competition is good, and two, it's okay to win, it's okay to lose. Like when you lose, you just learn from it. It's not that big of a deal. So yeah, I mean, I had some of the best competitive kickball games or math review games or basketball games. Here in 2 hours, when I get to go down at lunchtime with these 6th and 7th graders, I will be playing basketball. So I have a pretty good little fadeaway, and all of them will yell one move Youd, because they know I'm going to hit my fadeaway. And, it's just fun because I thrive off the competition and like kind of the little trash talk with them, and they love it. So it's good stuff.
That's awesome.
I'm sure that, he had to learn some tough lessons along the way to have such a strong character as a pro player now. He's modeling behavior for young people across the country with his reaction. And to me, that goes a long way. He's using basically his celebrity status to send a message. Yeah. And it's a good, strong message.
Yeah. Go ahead.
No, I'm finished. You go.
Even Patrick Mahomes, I don't know if you guys seen this or not, but before the Super Bowl, when they interviewed him, one of the questions to Patrick Mahomes was, after football is over, what's the one thing that you want to be remembered for? And his answer, and I made my 9-year-old boy listen to this, but his answer was, I hope I'm remembered of someone who loves his teammates.
Oh.
I thought it had nothing to do with football, right? It was somebody who is remembered for loving his teammates. And that's how it should be, no matter where we work, no matter what we do. What do you remember for? Loving others.
Oh.
Love that. So even the strongest schools with the strongest admin and the strongest teachers and the most amazing students, you're still going to have some issues of bullying, just kids not being kind because they're kids and they're learning and they're kind of going through the motions of learning how to grow up and be adults and manage their self-regulation and manage themselves, manage relationships with peers, which is so hard. Do you have any strategies or anything that you're doing to combat bullying and really promote that kindness for your student relationships?
I think it is, you're dead on. It's going to happen no matter where you're at. no matter if you're at a school or any workplace, right? Because it's just there. And I always tell parents and others, I'm in a building where there's 1,250 people at every single day. And we're all coming from different political views, different religious beliefs, different family situations, hobbies, talents, skill sets, pet peeves. It's hard to mesh 1,250 people together every single day that everybody's going to be, loving and kind. So it's going to happen. And I think the most important thing is the coaching behind it. There's so many of us that, hey, we hear that something happened and we just want to douse out the fire right now and be done with it and move on and report it to parents. But it's the coaching behind the behavior that can help the most. And it's helping those kids in that situation learn, one, it's good to report it. Two, what can we learn from it? Why did it happen? Why are we acting like this? What's the underlying behavior? Is there something that went on at home? Is there trauma at home? Was there trauma earlier in life? Is it a repeated behavior? But if we're not coaching the good behavior, I love saying this to people, we're here to coach math and to coach sports and to coach English and stuff, but are we ever coaching behavior? We want to tell a kid how to act, but do we ever coach it?
Right.
And so even after a bullying situation or a fight situation, I find it's important to follow up often. My first book is called The King of the Court, and it's a true story that happened to me when I was in 5th grade. And it's about boys at recess in elementary school, and they're playing King of the Court. The winning team stays on the court, and the challengers come on. And just like in any elementary school, the good kids form the best team, right? They don't split the teams evenly. And I remember being the team that always lost. And there was a kid in the school, and he was tall. He had huge feet. He was clumsy. He was lonely. He didn't have any friends. He stayed by himself. But I remember one of my friends on our team says, hey, why don't we go invite Andy over here to be on our team? And I was like, what? We can't invite him. He can't shoot a basketball. He can't dribble a basketball. Like, everybody teases him. What are we going to do, And I had a friend that was like, no, what if we invited him and he blocked shots and rebounded the ball? And
that's brilliant.
And we laughed, right? Like, is it really going to work? And I remember going and talking to Andy, and we were in 5th grade, and we invited Andy, and Andy said, no, if I do, people will make fun of me. And it took a few times, and we finally taught Andy to come out and said, listen, you're not going to shoot. You're not going to dribble. You're going to get a basketball. You're going to throw it to one of us. We don't want you to do those things. And I know that sounds mean at the time, right? But that was our plan. We were like, hey, we need somebody big. And I remember when we first walked on the court and got him to play with us, people laughed and said, what's he doing here? He can't be here. Get off the court. And some other kids are like, just give him a chance. And as we played that game, he did. He blocked shots and he got rebounds. He never shot the ball. And we ended up winning. And what happened to Andy was he became everybody's favorite. Everybody was like, oh, we want Andy on our team, And my favorite line out of that book is the very last line of King of the Court, where it says, Andy, and I can't even repeat it word for word right now, but it was, Andy felt good about winning the game, but he felt even more about having a friend. And King of the Court meant something different to Andy than just winning. And I have my students, when they're in bullying situations, I actually read that book quite often. And in the back of my book, I put 8 to 10 questions, And one of those questions is, when I have these kids read that book, is, which character are they in that story? Are they the Andy? Are they one of the bullies? Are they the kid trying to help in the situation? But I'm hoping that book, when I talk about it with kids and talk about that story, it helps those kids understand a little bit of love and empathy towards somebody else, and to see that everybody has a talent or a skill, and you just have to find that and pull it out in people.
Man,
okay,
talk about building empathy.
Yes.
That's amazing.
Yes. all the heartstrings were just yanked right out of me. I'm like, run, don't walk, order the man's book, go to Amazon, order it, send it to all your friends, all your family. Like, it needs to be in your home library.
I hope
Thanks,
so.
Precious.
I'd like to get it in every elementary school. That's, I want to write these books that are character ed based that kids will love, what kids will connect with. And to have, like, even if they're in the home, for a parent to have that in the home and read it with a kid, to have those comprehension questions in the back that will really sink in, because sometimes as parents, right, we read a book with our kid and we don't have anything to talk about after. It's hard to come up with those stories. And I had a grandma come up to me. I was at a speaking event 2 Sundays ago, and she says, "Hey, I just want to let you know I have your book." And we read King of the Court, and I asked my grandson, "Hey, which character are you?" And she said, "It broke my heart when he said he was like Andy." And she said, "I had no idea at school that he feels like Andy feels." And she said it was a good open conversation that we had with, well, who are your friends? Well, who do you hang out with? But she said she would have never have known if she wouldn't have asked that question and read that book.
Yeah, you can tell that you're an educator who's also an author because you put the questions in the book. I can't tell you how many parent conferences that Candy and I sat through with parent, and I taught math and she taught reading, so these questions were always directed at her. But like, how do I get my kid to read? How do I make sure they understand what they read? Just those comprehension questions. That needs to be a thing. That needs to be every author adding those questions in their books, because that's amazing that you did that.
Thank you.
Yeah, I love it. You know what, Jentry?
And I've enjoyed it.
You need to reach out. Seriously, we need to get you in touch with Imagination Library. I don't know if you've ever heard of it, but it's an organization that Dolly Parton started many years ago, and children on the East Coast from years 1 to 5 get a free book every month. A free book every month.
That'd be awesome. And kids need that, Families need that.
They do. Man, if we could get you in that rotation, I just think your message is so strong. And like Kristen said, it's kind of novel to have those discussion questions at the end, especially in a picture book.
Yeah. Well, and I think it's so good to write about what kids need right now. So, my first one was that bullying, but seeing the talent and the skill and the friendship and other people. Next one, was the controlling your emotions and how we do that. My third one right now that I've actually started is girl drama. So.
You go, Mean Girls. We just did a YouTube short on that. Do it. It's a thing, man.
So yeah, that's my next one is to hit the girl drama and to have girls understand that it's okay to be emotional, but it's okay to get over things and be friends too. So
yeah,
it'll be good. I'm excited for this one.
Well, you keep at it, because I will tell you, when Kristen and I were teaching, we had a phenomenal counselor in our school, and she instituted a program called Gold Golden. And every Wednesday, the whole school stopped, and we had a 15 to 20 minute SEL lesson that was up to the teacher. There was some guidance there, but as a committee, this Gold Golden committee, we would look for age appropriate books that we would highlight one of those books every month with whatever the message was, respect, empathy, kindness, whatever it is, character building stuff. And it is hard to find quality text that you can use K to 5, and I'm sure middle school's the same way, to help send home those messages, because those kids do relate to the characters in those books, and they see themselves as those characters in the books. And this is the way for them to figure out how to navigate those situations. So please keep at it. There's such a need for it.
Thank you. That's always the goal, right? Because being a teacher myself, it was hard to find books that would really connect and teach those. And that was the goal when I started was, hey, how many people can I affect? How many people can I get to read a book and learn a lesson and enjoy it?
It's really cool. Well, I guess it's time. We're coming to the end of our discussion today, and I've totally enjoyed it. I've actually gotten a tear a time or two, because it's just like pulling at my heart thinking about kids. And I'm so grateful you're in a space where you're connecting with them and you're encouraging your staff to do the same. Keep lifting those.
I work the best job in the world. I truly am so excited on Sunday night, and my family can tell you this, on Sunday night, I'm excited for school in the morning. And I'm just grateful that I get to be around kids every single day and get to coach and get to help.
It's awesome.
Yeah, I hope you never question if you're in the right space, because, man, you are. You have found your calling. If you could give one message to your school family, what would it be?
I'd give the message to my school family that it's important to connect with a student every single day. Connect with them, talk with them, get to know them, and make a phone call home about them. Because when you connect with a kid, they know that they're loved, they feel validated, and that love will grow into a good relationship that'll make them a better student. So connecting, positive phone calls, listening to a kid, and making them home.
If you could give one piece of advice to parents of middle school students, what would it be?
The piece of advice that I'd give to any parent of any school-age kid, whether it's middle school or junior high, is tell your kids this one statement: I'm proud of you, and I'm proud of who you are. I think we often say I love you, but sometimes the words of I'm proud of you, I'm proud to be your mom, I'm proud to be your dad, it hits home a little bit different. And when those kids hear that, it just makes them feel good about themselves and makes them know that they're doing the right thing.
What is the best part about your job?
The thing I love most about my job is building relationships with people, whether that's teachers, parents, or kids. Like, the relationships are what drives us as human beings, that we want to be connected to others. And we have an opportunity with that every single day, no matter if we're in a school, at a grocery store, at a gas station, at home with our neighbors. We connect with people and we strive for a good relationship.
What is the hardest part of your job?
The hardest part of my job is to see kids and to hear about the home lives that some of them have, because some of them come from hard circumstances and they've seen things and they've been around things that I haven't in my 37 years. And they know a lot more about the world than what we realize. And it's tough to just hear their stories and see those hard circumstances. But then again, it's rewarding too when we're able to acknowledge that and help them through it.
What do you look for in a friend?
I want the friends around me to be positive, serving, and motivating. So I want them to accept me for who I am, but I want to be around people who see the positive in everything, who are willing to step out of their comfort zone and serve others around them and motivate me to be a better person.
What is the thing you're the most proud of?
I'm the most proud of my family. They are the most meaningful thing in my life is my wife and 4 kids. And I would do anything for them, and to be with them every single day, and to hang out, play games, let them know I love them. The hugs that I get here at 4:30 when I walk in the door, can't wait for it, and I am proud of who I am and the family that I belong to.
Well, we know that you found your calling in education, but if you weren't in education, what would you be doing?
God, that's a good question. If I wasn't in education, I might be a rodeo clown. I'd have a good time being a rodeo clown, but no, I really think I would love to be like a child therapist. I would love to just something to where I could work with kids. I don't even know what the job title is anymore, but I know that there's some child therapists that could go work in hospitals, to cheer up kids and be around kids that have those terminal illnesses and things like that. I would love to be a part of that and just bring happiness and love to a kid's life. I feel like that's my calling and where I want to be.
Jentry, it's been such a pleasure to gain your insight today and see the world through your lens. I think if more people could adopt a culture of kindness, this world would be a different place. And so that's what we need to work towards every day, is to spread that kindness and make it contagious in a good way.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for your time today. It's been a real pleasure.
No, thank you guys. And thank you for making me a better person today. I appreciate you guys, and I can't wait to meet both of you in person and give you a hug and get to know you a little bit more. But thank you for making me a better person and making a bright, happy spot in my life today.
Feeling is absolutely mutual, Jentry. Thank you so much.
Thank you.